Hey guys, it's Gigi, and it is February the 8th, 2026, and over the weekend I was able to finish Who's Watching Shorty. And this book immediately pulled me in because it's finally from the mouth of Reshona Landfair, who was the victim in that sex tape that shocked the world, one of the biggest scandals in pop culture. This tape was also the weight that scaled the minds of those who had been extending grace to R. Kelly, as he had previously been entangled with another minor, Aaliyah, and the general public was starting to believe the allegations mounting against R. Kelly and the abuse of minors. But at the same time, when someone tells their own story, the real question becomes what they reveal, what they reframe, and what they leave out. So in this video, I'm breaking down this book into 5 things: credibility, accountability, omissions, narrative control, and what actually changes our understanding of this gigantic scandal. Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, was a major pop star at one time. When this tape was released, it became a major talking piece, probably the beginning of the downfall of R. Kelly. It took a while to get him, but eventually, as you know, they got him. Kelly is serving a 30-year federal sentence following his 2021 conviction in New York on charges including racketeering, sexual exploitation of children, forced labor, and sex trafficking. In 2022, he was further convicted in Chicago on 3 counts of producing child pornography and 3 counts of enticing a minor to engage in sexual activity. Drew Dixon's foreword. I didn't like the implication of race. It's that same old liberal rhetoric that threw me off. Drew Dixon is privileged. She's from privilege. Her mom was the mayor of Washington, D.C., actually the first Black woman mayor of Washington, D.C. And so Drew Dixon has been fighting Russell Simmons for years. Russell Simmons is another pop music producer deemed predator. And I do applaud Drew Dixon for going after Simmons while he hides out in Bali. But Reshona Landfair's story does not fit that overlooked Black girl lost narrative. This story is more of a breakdown of a family. Reshona Landfair was sexually abused by R. Kelly from the age of 12 and didn't officially leave that abusive cycle until she was 26. She is credible and was brutally honest in her presentation. And in fact, she scolded men for lusting after shapely and developing young girls. She reminded us of all the people who were around R. Kelly in the studios and just in his entourage that watched her abuse. She resented how she was called fast and accused of asking for the abuse. She scolded Dave Chappelle in her book and his skits about the tapes, not considering that the tapes were about a child, and she didn't like that, and she called him out for it. And so for her to call him out and put a little blurb in there in her book about Dave Chappelle in that skit, it must have really hurt her. So I thought that was interesting. Reshona Landfair was from the west side of Chicago. She sang in a group called For the Cause, and this was like a family group, a cover band, and they were signed by, she says, a football player named Reggie Wright, who was the owner of Big Doggy Records. And so they had a small following. They toured overseas. They toured with Raven-Symoné in 1996, touring in several countries, but not really ever finding the popularity in the United States. So this is how she was introduced to R. Kelly, by her aunt Sparkle, Stephanie Sparkle Edwards. So Reshona Landfair's father was also a Chicago musician, and he played with R. Kelly, and he played throughout Chicago in various venues in different genres. So I do believe Reshona Landfair is credible. She is that little girl that was in that video all those years ago that all of us talked about, who were around at that time when that video was being distributed around the world. And finally, we can hear her account and her story, and I think it's really good. I think it's a great buy, and I think she's very credible. Sparkle was 16 years older than Rashana, And Sparkle was married to Earl Robinson of Public Announcement, a rap group at that time. And Sparkle was like the star of the family. And working with R. Kelly, Sparkle sang background for Leah. Sparkle was R. Kelly's protege. So according to Rashana, it was Sparkle who told Reshona to ask R. Kelly to be her godparent. And Sparkle told Reshona to sit on his lap and rub his head when she asked him. Rashana told her parents about R. Kelly becoming her godparent. They reminded her as well that she had godparents. But inevitably, they let it fly anyway, even though they knew of everything that was going on with R. Kelly and the scandal that he was accused of with Aaliyah. R. Kelly was whining and dining his family. Rashana boasts on numerous occasions of how he took them out to Cheesecake Factory, restaurants, this, that, and the other. And they allowed R. Kelly to come to her school basketball games. He would come there and root for her. I mean, just total classic grooming. Rashana looked up to Sparkle, kind of like, she said that Sparkle was like the big sister that she never had. So Sparkle had a lot of influence on Rashana. And Sparkle would teach her things like how to keep her vagina on fleek and how to keep it manicured and all the intricacies of love and mysteries of lying in bed with men, teaching Rashana this at a very young age. R. Kelly was paying for Valerie Landfair's shoe store. Matter of fact, at one point in the book, Rashana says that her parents were just totally dependent on R. Kelly. And so that was what they could give back for what he was doing for them. And this is how R. Kelly works. If you look at some of the other stories, it's the same thing. You have these weak families that basically sell their kids to this man and then cry foul. Same story. This is no different. Her parents sold her out. And I think out of everyone, her parents are the most accountable for what happened to her, even more than Sparkle. So, and another thing about this accountability, again, I don't believe that Rashana holds herself as accountable as she should. They all perjured themselves. She said that in the book. She holds Sparkle accountable. She talks about her mom and dad. And in my opinion, I think he was the one that failed her the most. For one, it was brought to the parents' attention that there should be someone looking into Rashana and R. Kelly's relationship. And Rashana says that the father, Greg Landfair, kind of dealt with it as an issue of adultery. And this was when Rashana was a minor. So I thought that was kind of like a mind screw. I'm sorry, but I must say that I think that was a mind screw that her father would call it adultery. And I think this is why she, throughout the book, pins R. Kelly as a chronic adulterer. And so I think that was his way, the father's way of dealing with it and not dealing with it. And I think that was abuse on top of abuse. And I felt so bad for her. R. Kelly was way more than an adulterer. He was a child molester and he was abusing his daughter, and he didn't seem to address that part. He seemed to say he was an adulterer, like it was a healthy relationship that just needed, some tweaking. It was just, to me, I just think that was just a mind screw, and I just felt bad about that part. He also used the Bible. She said in a passage how his voice sound was dipped in the gold of God or something. Don't quote me. But she talked about how her father did a mock Bible study for their family, I guess, and he was talking about perversion and he was rebuking everyone, and he had gotten filled with the Holy Spirit, I guess, they're saying, she says, and he was rebuking everyone about perversion. But it didn't seem like R. Kelly was in the Bible study. And so it was just his family. And so he had to be talking really to Rashana, because she said she felt a kind of way when she went back into her room. I just think that was a bad representation of biblical principles and how God works. Because if God was really working like, you know what I'm saying, in his family like it should have been, they wouldn't have let that happen to her. They wouldn't have cared about anything R. Kelly would have been able to give them. I bet you they would have fared better just by walking away from that. But they held on thinking R. Kelly was going to bring them some type of magic, and he didn't. And, it's unfortunate. As a matter of fact, Rashana also says in the book how Sparkle introducing her to R. Kelly to go on into a musical business venture, totally destroyed her hopes, dreams, aspirations, goals, future in that music industry. Omissions. There were several things that I wish Rashana would have talked more about. Like, I wish she would have clarified exactly how old she was when R. Kelly started abusing her. I don't know why I keep thinking 12. I know everything that I've read outside of her book says 14. But in the book, it seems like he was abusing her before then. He was just not penetrating her. They were having oral encounters. Maybe I just went through it really fast, but that was kind of unclear. So I wish I would have had a little bit more clarity on that. She also made reference to a nephew, and I think this was R. Kelly's nephew that she accuses him of abusing. And so, but she didn't really go into that. I didn't realize, I didn't know that he abused boys as well. So that was kind of like a shock. But she didn't talk about it a lot. She talked about how she was made to have threesomes with women, and she was blindfolded, and they might have been blindfolded. And so I wanted to know if she could tell us about how old, what were the ages of those women. I really would like to know that, because I have a feeling that some of those women might not have been of age, and that's why they were all blindfolded. I know that she talked about 3 of her friends that she actually trafficked to R. Kelly, and they were minors. She talked about Barry Hankerson, who's Aaliyah's manager, uncle or something, and how he didn't like R. Kelly. They had like something going because of Aaliyah and money and all that stuff. But probably just me, but I did want to hear more about Aaliyah. I do believe that these people know more, some of them, not all of them, but it's just like Rashana, like, do you know more about what happened to Aaliyah for real? And, and just like with Cassie and Diddy. Cassie, do you know anything more about what happened to Kim Porter? I think they know more, but they don't say anything. So Rashana was Andrea and R. Kelly's children's nanny. So she was watching them. So Rashana was in the mix of Andrea Kelly and R. Kelly when they were married, Sparkle when she was sleeping with R. Kelly, and they had their thing. So Rashana was like right there. I know Andrea knew that R. Kelly was sleeping with that child. She had to know that. She didn't really talk about if Andrea knew or not, so that was kind of omitted. She did say Andrea was being abused, and I want to know, did she know that he was sleeping with that child right under her thumb, the child that's watching your children? And I also think she was a little dishonest when she says that she told R. Kelly how Sparkle had gotten a new boyfriend, and R. Kelly was pissed off, and she said that she only told him because he kept asking her and she was scared and she was young, impressionable, and I get that. However, I do believe that there was some vindictiveness going on as to why she told R. Kelly that. I think she did that on purpose, so I don't think she was quite honest about that. Because I think that all along, this little girl was vying for her man too, because that's what she was made to believe that she should do. And so I think that there was just some little vindictiveness going on in there as well. Because I mean, think about it. This young girl is sleeping with this man who's sleeping with her aunt, who has a wife, and she's watching the kids. Come on, women are territorial, so they'll play games. So she didn't talk too much about that, but I do think that a little bit of that was going on when she told Sparkle's secret, because that was like the nail in the coffin that ruined Sparkle's and R. Kelly's relationship. Narrative control. I do believe that they use religion in this book as a narrative control. There was so much reference to the Bible. There were so many scriptures read, and Reshona Landfair talks about how her family had 10 extra commandments that they were supposed to go and abide by, and so on and so forth. And really, I think that it gave religion, in my opinion, a bad rap. It made it look fake. It made it look weak and powerless. A religious family, or a family that was really abiding by all of those precepts and those rules that were named here, would not have let any of that happen. It was insulting a bit, that there was so much reference to religion. When you read the book, you'll see that her family's God was truly money and fame. So, I did not like the reference to religion. I thought it was used as narrative control to give this story a little bit more substance. And I didn't think it worked. It didn't work for me. So, what changes my understanding about this story? I would say the main thing that changes my understanding is learning about Rashana's parents, and how they actually helped and aided R. Kelly in abusing their child. So I was not aware of that. That is something that changed my understanding of the story, how they used religion to actually oppress Rashana and keep her in a place where she should not have been. She should have been rescued from and never was. So I see her parents as co-conspirators, actually, in this case. How they were paid and sent to Cancun and the Bahamas while he was in trial, and then how she came right back and went back into that room where she was trapped again. So it's like, it wasn't just R. Kelly. I had no idea that her parents were just as liable. I had no idea that Sparkle was as liable, because I thought she was actually helping the cause by bringing this to light. But now I'm seeing all that was just for more fortune, more fame. Has nothing to do with anything else. Like I said, this seems like these people's God is truly fame and fortune. I'm glad to see that Rashana is moving on, and I hope that she and her son can get past this and live a healthy life. I hope that she can find peace in her heart with her mom and with her family. I'm glad that this chapter in her life and in the life of pop culture is closing. This is Gigi. Peace.